One of the hobbies that Jason and I had as children we collected sports cards, baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards, and of course we like to play games, and we like to I like to play sports a lot. And one of my favorite athletes at the time was a player for the Milwaukee Bucks. His name was Marques Johnson. And Jason was fortunate enough to pull out a Marques Johnson card out of one of the packs of basketball cards that he had gotten. And we didn't get a lot of basketball cards, but more than, of course, my mom wanted because we made a big mess on the floor at times. But Jason got the Marques Johnson card, and I really, really wanted that Marques Johnson card. He had the better of me on that one, and I think there were quite a few yees expressed over the fact that he had the Marques Johnson and I didn't. And so I devised a scheme. I made up a little game that we played, and the game is that you went through your stack of cards, and if you guessed which player it was, you got to keep it from the other person's stack. So Jason would have his stack of cards in front of him, and I would be guessing. And if I happened to guess the card that was on top that he was looking at, and we would alternate. We would take turns, and he would try to guess what I had, and I would guess what he had, and that was all. Basically it was a game that I devised just to try to get that Marques Johnson card. And one of the things that really, really frustrated Jason back then was I would simply guess Marques Johnson every time. And he would scream and yell at the top of his lungs, "Bob, you can't guess Marques Johnson every time. You have to pick somebody different." And I would switch up for a couple times. And then I'd go back to Marques Johnson, and he'd yell again. And there were a few not fist fights, but just a few arguments and squabbles over that. But and I think there were a few times, if Jason were honest, that I guessed Marques Johnson when the Marques Johnson card was up, but he kind of switched it around or didn't have it there or lied, and I didn't get the Marques Johnson. But eventually, I did get the Marques Johnson card, and then I was no longer interested in playing that game. He could get as many of the other cards as he wanted, but I wanted the Marques Johnson card. And I got the Marques Johnson card, and to this day, I still have the Marques Johnson card. So, yee, 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 I have the Marques Johnson.